Well, Darrin, hey, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's fun to actually talk to you because you tend to sub for me, so we've never really seen each other face to face. But my teammates have seen you.
Yeah, that's the tough part about being everybody's sub is I never actually get to meet the friends that I end up talking to a lot on the computer or via chats, this, there, and the other thing. You never get to meet anybody that you sub for. So this is actually pretty cool to be able to see you and meet you.
Well, and it's not gonna lie, it's a little annoying when you sub for me because that first game back, my teammates are like, "So you're not gonna drink a beer between periods, like Darrin does?" I'm like, "Well, no, I want to see one puck. You guys know I need all the help I can get, and I need to only see one puck."
Yeah. Some I don't know. My style is a little more unique than most when it comes to a lot of things, but
Yeah,
having a beer in between periods is one thing. Or
I, I I've noticed if I have a beer before the game, that does help me. I don't know why. It's not like I get overly anxious or anything for a game, but just something about it just relaxes me just enough
yep,
to where I don't get into my own head. I don't know what it is, so that always helps. But I don't know. I can't say I've ever had a beer during a game. In part because it's hard to keep one on the net.
yeah,
So
for sure.
although growing up in Chicago, there were some beer leagues where they had the beer in the water bottles, but that's a little tough. You don't want the splash on the face and then get all sticky.
Right, yeah, and I've never been one to have a water bottle on the net anyway. I don't need another target
Yeah.
other than my face for them to shoot up high. So
Well, and I've had more than one water bottle destroyed in warmups. It's funny. My teammates can't hit the water bottle during a game, but they sure can during warmups. I don't know what the deal is.
well, it's adult league hockey, and it's the face or the nuts or upper top top corners. One of the three.
Yeah, I think when it gets to the beer leagues, we all know the guys on our team that are going to be good at putting the pucks where we want them in warmups, and then you see the guy coming down where it's like, should I just step out of the net? Because I know it's going to be over the crossbar to begin with, and most likely at my head. So is it even worth trying with that guy?
Yeah, I understand that, and it's tough, especially for guys like us playing in like for me, especially playing in several different leagues, like the upper echelon leagues. You kind of have upper echelon players that kind of know how
Yep.
hockey's supposed to go, and then you play in the lower tiers, and you got guys who know, guys who don't, and some reason it just doesn't compute with some guys, and there you
Yep.
are, the
Well,
target.
and even I've noticed, when I skate in some of the hockey finder leagues over, at Fogarty or whatnot, it's not that they don't know, it's that they don't have the control. They're just
That
trying
too.
to hit the net. They don't have the control. And I've said it many times. It's much easier as a goalie to play up than it is to play down because of
Yeah,
things like that.
I 100% agree. There's things during the games that should happen,
Yes.
and a lot of time at the lower level, it doesn't happen the way it should. And man, you're either trying to play the way you're supposed to, and it just doesn't work out, and you look like a fool. But it's
Yeah, perfect example of that. I was playing in a hockey finder league and there was a 2-on-1. And so I'm playing the shot, but I'm ready for the pass. Guy passes across. I'm like, okay. And that guy quickly it does a give and go. And I'm like, okay, so this should be a shot here. So I stack the pads. Well, they fumble the pass
oh
and
no,
now they get control and pass it back. I'm like, well, now I'm SOL and I look bad because of the skill level. And so it's yeah, you have to adjust, especially the higher we've played. Like you said, there's things that should happen, and we play to that, and then that doesn't happen, and we look bad. But what are you going to do? I've said it for a long time. As long as we don't get hurt, doesn't matter.
yeah, it always keeps you on your toes, and that's why I like playing uh, all levels, because
Yeah.
you never know what to expect. And most of the time when you're playing at a lower level, you're on a team that the goaltender is either tired or you're on the last place team and you're playing the first place team tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it,
Well, and I'm one of those weird goalies where I'm a stats guy. I'm an analyst by trade. So,
Okay.
and I do the videos. So I put the camera up behind my net and I keep my own stats, not because I care about it, but because that's who I am.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when I look at my team, like this year, I was averaging 35 or almost 40 shots a game, 38.8 to be exact. And it's like, that's not supposed to happen in the beer leagues. So,
Yeah.
it's like I'm active, and so when I look at the goals against, I'm like, yeah, higher than I would like, but on par for what it should be for that many shots.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to look at the save percentage more than anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen the Stop It Goaltending game day app. Brian DeCord out of Boston University, he put it together, and they have a new metric. It's expected goals against minus goals against. So you track and I've gotten to this point just because I'm curious of it, being the stats guy. I track all my shots based off of that app now to see, okay, if I let in 5 goals in the game, but the app says I should have let in 6, I don't feel so bad about those 5 goals I let in, even though we lost 5-4. It's like, well, I actually played better than I should have. It's a pretty cool app because they did a bunch of, homework before they release it. It's like, based off of these situations, the puck should go in this percentage of time. I won't bore people with the math and all that stuff behind it, but it's made me feel better. Over the course of the season, I averaged about letting in 1 more goal a game than I should have, which, okay.
That's where stats can get muddy.
It can get muddy, but that's where, you got to start looking at the intangibles. Baseball, it's a perfect example where everybody's looking at the stats these days, but then you got a guy like Joe Madden. He takes the stats, but he's like, but you can't ignore what the eye sees. So I look at most of our games, we had 7-8 skaters while the other team had 2 to 3 lines.
Yeah, that's always fun.
That doesn't translate into the stats.
No.
Yeah. So I digress. I want to get to the questions I normally ask. And the first question I always ask everybody is, how did you get started in this great game of hockey?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a dad who loved the game. As a really, really young kid, he was young as well. My dad was 19 when I was born. My mom was 17. And he was just trying to make it and ended up coaching a couple of teams, reffing a lot of hockey when I was a little kid. So I was always at the rink, no matter what. If I wanted to be there, if it was frigid, some of those rinks up north, I remember distinctly, like Mora Ice Arena.
Yes.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, was extremely cold, but Dad needed to have his little buddy there, and I was happy to oblige, and turned into, well, do you want to play? And I was super excited to get the gear on, and I remember being as nervous as I've ever been almost in my entire life, like losing sleep the night before my first practice because I don't know how to put the gear on right. I don't know what to do or who to talk to, but that's that's how I got started in the game, and it progressed quite a bit from there.
So did you put the pads on right away, or was that kind of a progression?
No, my dad was a goalie growing up, and that was the last spot he wanted me to be in. So I
understand that.
I remember it was ponies back then. Now it's like C or D mites. I didn't play as a really little kid. We couldn't afford it. And then something happened to where I got a bunch of gear, and all of a sudden I was playing. And in ponies, they gave us the option, we have a guy who wants to play goalie all the time, but every now and again you can switch in. And this is when we had the old brown Cooper gloves and the brown leather pads. And my dad was coaching B2 Bantams at the time. I put the pads on because I wanted to play in the next game. and he brought me out to an outdoor practice and had his Bantams beat the crap out of me.
What a dad, bringing the might out to a bantam practice, trial by fire.
Yeah, and I did. I feel as if I did pretty good that day, but then the game came. I'll never forget it. We were playing at Columbia Arena. I was in Columbia 1. I was playing for, my team was the Stars. I forget who we were playing, but I just completely crapped the bed. And we ended up losing like 9-2, and I didn't want to play goalie after that. So I went on to have a very good career as a defenseman growing up. I played throughout high school. I was on Blaine's varsity team as a defenseman, played junior hockey while I was in high school. And actually, high school is where I started putting the pads on a little more often. I've kind of been the same size since 8th grade, so I'm 5'10", and I've been this way forever. I was always a huge kid growing up, and everybody caught me. And a buddy of mine's older brother played adult league, got hurt, and said, "You fit the pads. How about you jump in the net?" And that's where I've stayed ever since.
Nothing wrong with that. So anybody who plays out at the super rink and has seen you, you're hard to miss. In fact, every now and then there's the pictures on the GGSU Facebook group, like, this guy is out here playing this way. Like, what the heck's wrong with them? Because you play with an old school fiberglass mask from the 70s. Like, have you always played with the old mask, or, what's the story behind that?
So I didn't always play with the old mask, but I've always had a love for the position. The goaltending position has always been just the gear alone was something that I loved. And while I was in middle school and high school, I had my best friend was a goalie. His older brother was the one who got me into it. And I was lucky enough to, and if anybody can see, this is what I use, a Mike Louis replica. And yes, I take shots to the head all the time. And yeah, every now and again it hurts, but it's not that bad. But I've always had an affinity and appreciation for the old pros and everything they went through. I was lucky enough to have that friend who got me into goaltending, had connections to some of the equipment managers in the NHL back in the early and mid 90s. So the first pair of leg pads I ever used were Bob Essenzo's. The chest protector and pants that I still use were Garth Snow's from 1995. His chest protector, I've finally retired. Now I'm using an old Chris Osgood from the late 90s. It's an Eagle. And I'm still wearing the Garth Snow pants that are shredded. And I finally found a new set of Heatons that are exactly the same. And I'm waiting anxiously for their arrival, because you can literally see my legs through my pants at this point. So it'll be nice to put those in. So the mask, let's see, I was bored. It was right when the pandemic hit, and I was in dire need of something new, because the old Eddie that I have, the fiberglass was completely shattered and broken on the forehead, because I, again, am a little bit crazy and I'll headbutt the puck whenever it's coming. I don't shy away from it. So the forehead was gone. The mask itself was dented to my face. And I saw this Louis replica on Facebook Marketplace, saw a picture of the guy who owned it previously, and I said, I have to have it. And yeah, it's gonna probably make a lot of people crazy because I wear it, because it's not safe, this, that, and the other thing. But I haven't really gotten any flack from anybody saying you can't wear that. Yes, I get the you're crazy. How can you wear that thing? How can you see? But it's such a good conversation starter. Um, and it's such a cool piece to have. And I'm just so happy with it, and I'm really really excited every time I see another person in the corner sheepishly holding their phone up, uh, trying to make sure that I don't see that they're taking pictures of me, but I see it all the
That's
time,
been me.
and I appreciate it, and I think it gives those guys from the '70s and '60s um, some extra love
Yeah.
and admiration that some people are still out here um, willing to use the gear that they did, and I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, my first set of equipment was association equipment from the 70s. Chest protector was a two-piece. You know,
Oh,
I learned how to play with that stuff. And so yeah, I've got appreciation. Now I love my new stuff. I mean, you followed me for a while, so up until this time last year, I was playing with stuff from the 90s.
oh yeah,
And my chest protector is still from the 90s. I got big bruise on my shoulder and one on my chest from this weekend's game because you
mm-hmm.
feel the puck. You play a little different when you have that fear of getting hit. And yeah, those old guys, they have an appreciation because even though I got the new stuff, I still play that old style.
Yeah,
Um,
here.
in fact, I forget who it was that, when I got the new stuff, they were asking me like, are you worried you're not going to be able to stack the pads or play the old style anymore? It's like, no, I'm still going to, that's why I got custom stuff. So, I didn't get the 2-inch thigh rise for that reason. I got a 1-inch. I wanted to still be able to do that stuff.
Right.
You can still play that old style with the new equipment if you order it right. But the kids today, they don't want to play that way. They want to just play a modern style, modern blocking style, and not the old athletic style.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a style that's just not for me.
yeah, no, I'm not good enough to. That's one of the main reasons. So back to the mask, because every time it shows up on GGSU, within the first 5 comments, somebody always asks like, "How can you play with that? How do they allow you to play with it?" Have you ever had a ref kind of come up to you and be like, "I don't know if I should let you play," or are they just like, "If you're dumb enough to wear it, we're gonna let you"?
I've had a couple instances where I was asked if I had something different or if it was certified. And anything can be certified if you find a helmet somewhere and grab a hex sticker off of it and throw it on a mask. I mean, certified, it is what it is. There's always a loophole to a system, but I've never not been able to play because of it. I've been asked not to wear it in some situations, but it's either you want a goalie or you don't, to be honest. I'm going to wear it. I do have my other mask, but again, it's completely fallen apart, and I'm actually probably more protected with this fiberglass mask than I am with the one that I had before.
Well, and at some point it was certified.
Yeah,
They didn't ask if it was certified right now.
right. And it's a replica. It was made in 2020. I got it in 2020. So it's new fiberglass anyway. So if that makes anybody feel any better about it, then there you go. It's new fiberglass, and it's got some padding in it, not a lot, but some, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I've thought I would love to get a Murray Bannerman mask like that because I actually went to Murray Bannerman's Learn to Skate when I was first starting out, and I think that's one of the best, you know, fiberglass masks out there look wise. And the old Tony Esposito where he had the cage around the eyes, like those.
Yeah,
If I were to play with one or the other, it'd be those two, just because I love their look. And I mean, you've subbed for me, so you know the level. I could get away with it in my league. I get hit a couple times a year in the head, but it rarely has it been where I'd be like, "Whew, that was a stinger." I'd be comfortable wearing it in my league.
yeah, and that's more or less why I can wear it all the time is because I know who I'm playing with or against a lot of the time. I've subbed for everybody. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. And if I haven't subbed for you, you haven't been a team that long.
Yeah.
I know, and I know what I can get away with, what I can't. I'm a guy who will glove a puck and I'm able to punt it from the crease to center ice. So I throw that little move out there as well. And that gets a lot of attention. And, it's little things like this that keep the game a little more interesting if they're, for the 3 or 4 fans that are there for our games. It's a little more fun to watch. And, the refs don't see stuff like this every day. The other guys don't see stuff like this every day. So it's a lot of fun to pull something new out.
Well, and especially, the leagues over at the super rink, like you said, they're happy to have a goalie. And if you can entertain them, they like it all the more, because when I break out the 2-pad stack or something, the refs and the other team, they always come up and say something about it. You want to win a game, but we're all out there just because we're old guys wanting to play a kid's game. So, if it's entertaining, who cares what the scoreboard says?
Yeah, and it's a lot more fun just to play and have a good time. It's like almost every time I go out there, it's like playing in the backyard with my buddies again. When I started this goaltending adventure, you do you do some goofy move, or you flash the leather real hard, and everybody gets a kick out of it. And it's more fun for either side, whether or not you're playing for an A league somewhere, or you're playing at the D level. It's just so much more fun to throw some flair out there and just have fun.
Yeah. In fact, my last game, I made a scorpion save, and the whistle wasn't even blown, but the guy that I made the scorpion save on mid play is coming patting me on the back. He's like, "I'm not even mad. Like, I'd rather see that than score."
Yeah.
It's.
I think I lost you for a second here. Hopefully it's not that. There we go. I found you again.
But you primarily subbing, because I know in one of the posts you were looking for kind of a regular team to play for still. It's a little easier to be a little more out there and do some of the extra stuff when it's not your regular team. Because if it doesn't work out and you lose the game, you're like, it's just a sub. I don't have to face the wrath next week. But in doing that more and more, you get more comfortable with it, so that when you do it, it's like, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Right. Yeah. And I'm one to stack the pads a lot. I play kind of a 90s style, more like a Curtis Joseph.
Same.
But I like to, when I can, make stand-up saves and kick the leg out and make that big, turning your toe outward and pushing the puck into the corner.
Skate save, yeah.
Yeah, those are fun to pull out. And like you said, if you screw up, you look like a complete moron. But at the same time, if you do it enough, you practice it enough, then you can make the save, and everybody's ooh, and it's just fun.
That happened to me in this week's game. The guy was coming down from my glove side, so it's always the easiest one on a breakaway to do the flying poke check. And I was getting ready to do it. Well, it was a guy that I've played against him for a number of years, so he saw what was coming and he snuck it by me before I had the chance to. But it's like most any other guy in the league, I would have caught him, with the flying poke check. But it was like, all right, that one's on me, guys. Trying to switch it up a little bit, and it backfired.
Those can really be embarrassing moments, and I've had plenty of those. I'll try and do the punt, and it'll go straight up in the air, or I'll miss it completely, and it'll land right in front of me. And you got to take the good with the bad. But I'd rather have fun and throw some flair out there for the guys to either pat me on the pads for or give me grief for in the parking lot after.
Well, it's like in football when the coach goes for it on 4th and inches, a weird point in the game, and the announcers will say, "Well, if it works out, they'll be a genius. If it doesn't, everybody's going to be second guessing." And it's kind of like that when we do those things. And yeah, like you said, it gives us something to talk about in the parking lot, whether it works or doesn't. Yeah,
Yep.
we're going to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think we could talk about your mask and some of those antics for a long time because, like I said, those are the things. When everybody sees you at the rink, yeah, us goalies are in the corner taking the pictures. The teams you sub for, when us goalies come back, they're like, yeah, we kind of like the other guy better than you. He has more personality. I'm like, gee, thanks, guys. I brought the beer this week.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that's why we're going to keep you.
Yep.
But then you throw the mask in there, and like you said, every time it comes up on GGSU, people are like, I love it, but and it's kind of funny because if you haven't piped up in that comment, I'm usually over there like, yep, I know this guy. He subs for me. He's real. He does this. He didn't just do it for the one game because, like, I got an old Hasek helmet from when I played in college, and once in a great while, like if I'm playing in a tournament, like I played in the Soda Stick Hockey Classic. Now it's the Goons for Good, which I know you played in this weekend.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I broke the Hasek helmet out for a game back, during the first year of that. It's like, yeah, I'll do that every now and then, but like you do this every week. It's like you said, you bring the other one just in case, but that's your go-to, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it is my go-to, and there's a little bit to go along with why I like to wear it more now. Things have gotten a little more personal for me, and the jersey I wear is another intricate piece to my gear. I had the one jersey I wore for about 20 years of my career. It was just your regular old gray Minnesota Wild Adult League jersey I wore. Over this past year, I have gone through a barrage of surgeries. So I had my left leg out of nowhere started feeling terrible October last year, and I was told that I had a bad back. So I had a discectomy, which led to a weird thing called complex regional pain syndrome. And what that meant for me was the nerves going to my left foot would either keep all the blood in it or push all the blood out of it and not let any in.
Interesting.
So the day before Thanksgiving last year, I had just gotten over this back surgery. I threw blood clots after the surgery, so I was in the hospital for about a week. My foot's doing awful. I'm still trying to get out and play, but my left foot started to die, and I actually had my left big toe removed on the day before Thanksgiving last year. So that's why my number is -1. The Monday night team that I've played for since I'm not even kidding you. I was 17 years old when I started on my Monday night team, and I've been playing with them ever since. And my best friend from kindergarten for Christmas last year got me that jersey. It's a picture of one of my teammates smoking a cigarette through my mask, and that's the chest press. And they gave me the captain's patch forever, and I am now -1 for the rest of my life because I only got 9 toes.
That's hilarious. Instead of going with the easy number 9, the -1, I like that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the back issues, and I know that had you off the ice for quite a while. And it was just recently you got back on the ice, if I'm not mistaken.
This weekend was my first venture back in. I had a spinal fusion. L4, L5 are fused together now, and I just got back on the ice for the first time this weekend.
how did it feel? Were you sore? And I asked because I slipped. I think it was my L4, L5, 2, 3 years ago when I was building my retaining wall for our backyard rink.
Mhm.
Thank God, knock on wood, I haven't needed any surgery or anything. But how has the rehab gone, and how did it feel getting back on the ice?
Rehab was really good. I started playing against doctor's orders, but obviously, with everything else that you see with me and my personality, you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it. But
Yeah.
I am 12 weeks out from surgery. Um, at 2 days after surgery, I started walking a ton, and that's what I've been doing ever since I had that surgery. Is just walking a lot and slowly building strength back. I wasn't able to lift, bend, or twist for 8 weeks, but once those restrictions were taken off, I started lifting really light again. And I was actually pretty nervous about this weekend jumping in, but since it was a charity event, I knew it was just going to be lighthearted and fun, and I could go out and just have a good time. And if I hurt, I
Yep.
could stand. I could play the stand-up style if I needed to, and if things felt good, I would just play my normal style. And things actually felt really, really good. It was awesome to get back on the ice again. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
there's a little residual soreness yesterday and today, but going out to
It,
shovel the driveway made it all better.
Yeah, well, and that's the normal soreness. There's the good sore, and then there's the ooh, this is a good sore.
Right, it's all
And
been
you're
good.
right. That group, that those tournaments, it's a good pace. You know, it's kind of like a D league at the super rink where it's like it's
Yep.
a good pace, but it's good natured. They're not going to go hard to the net or anything like that. It was probably the perfect skate to get back into it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it too. It was a perfect re-entrance to the game. It gave me a lot more confidence in being able to step back on the ice again after such a major surgery, such a major year, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And to step back out there, play exactly like I did before surgery, it felt great. And man, I cannot tell you how happy I am with being back on the ice.
Now, I have to ask the important question because you said it was against doctor's orders. How happy was your wife when you told her you were going to play hockey?
Don't tell my wife. No,
But
I got back with my gear, and she knew what was going on, and I didn't get read the riot act too bad, but just she, she's a good gal. We actually got married 3 weeks ago, and we've been together for 15 and a half years. So she knows what she got into with me, and she wasn't too happy, but at the same time, I laid on the couch for a day, and she just you're definitely good enough to clean the banisters and dust the vacuum again. So if you can play hockey, you can do everything else. And I
yeah.
agree with her on that. It's time to get back on the horse.
Yeah, okay. So I have to ask this. You were together 15 years, but just now got married. What
But
changed
you gotta
that
make
you were
sure.
like, yeah, not now I think it's time to commit. After 15 years, it took you that long to know for sure?
I knew for sure the first time I saw her, so that
Yeah.
part was just a moot point. But we were really young. I think I was 22. He was 21 when we got together, and actually within 6 weeks we were expecting. So we we're still I don't want to say infatuated with each other because it took a lot more work on my end to convince her that I was the right guy. But you have one kid, you start a life, you get a house, uh, you
Yep.
all of a sudden I buy a house, and kid number two's on the way, and job stuff changes here and there, and we were just in a good spot to finally make it happen. And um, we were hoping to get this done before her grandmother passed away, and luckily we were able to get married before her grandmother passed away. And actually, so November 5th, 15th, sorry, we got married.
Yeah, as somebody who's been married 18 years, I'm gonna let you know, don't forget that day.
Okay.
I remember because we got married the same day as Game 1 of the 2004 World Series, the year Boston won it. So I have to, go with the things that make it easy for me to remember.
Reminder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually got married just in time. We had a family honeymoon with my two boys. I got a 14-year-old and 11-year-old boy. We went down to Florida for a week.
Oh, fun.
And we came back, and grandma got put in hospice, and she just passed away on Saturday, which
sorry to hear that.
It's a sad deal, but it's good she went quick. She had end stage COPD, so she didn't suffer at all. She was quick to get into hospice, and everything kind of turned out for the better.
Yeah, and I give you grief, but my sister and her husband, they were the same way. They got together. She was still in school. Then she got pregnant while still in school and everything else. And it wasn't until their third child was on the way that they're like, you know what, we'll get married now. And the main reason they got married is because my now brother-in-law needed to have surgery. And they're like, for the insurance, it's a lot easier to have you on the insurance if we're married than if we're just deemed life partners like the car insurance company had deemed them.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's a little bit easier that way. But, to them, there was other things that were more important than the piece of paper. They knew they were committed.
Yeah. And we were the same way. I mean, I had always called her my wife from the first few months. And, I didn't think it would mean as much as it did. But I was actually just reflecting about this last night about, man, this means so much more to me than I ever thought it would, which is really cool. I mean, I'm a married man. That's my wife, and man, I'm looking at things. Even though it's been a few weeks, it has changed things a little bit for the better in my mind, anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. My wife and I, we met when we were both 19, and 6 months later we were engaged. We knew right away that it was the deal, but we wanted to wait till we were both done with school. So we were engaged for what, I think 4 years. As we both got done with school. Yeah. So we've been together 22, but only married 18.
Congratulations on 22 years. That's a huge accomplishment nowadays. Things aren't all the way they used to be.
No, it's crazy when I tell people, they're like, you don't look old enough to be with somebody for 22 years. It's like, I take that as a compliment because, I'm pushing 42 here. But yeah, that's what happens when you meet that person young, and it works. And sometimes my wife says, she's upset she met me so young because she didn't get the chance to, have her young, fun 20s. It's like, well, but you got more time with me.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think since guys like you and I, we started early with getting families together and whatnot, you can enjoy your early 20s and your late 40s, and
well, it's
a lot more financial backing to go do trips, and you can live your early 20s in your 40s now.
Yeah, well, exactly, because turning 42 here in a couple of weeks, and in 3 years we're going to be empty nesters as both kids are going off to college.
Ooh, what does that feel like?
Weird. Like we're too young to be empty nesters, but then we're like, all right, we got two kids going, because our kids are 14 and 15. We got a freshman and sophomore, but my son is an overachiever, and he's got his plan to finish high school in 3 years and graduate with his sister.
Oh, well, good for him. Congratulations. So
like, all right. And he just let us know this. We're like, thanks for letting us know ahead of time as we start thinking about how the heck we're going to get you guys both through college.
Right.
And he's like, oh, yeah. And I want to go to Georgia Tech to be an aerospace engineer. And we're like, okay. Yeah. So it's like, okay, Georgia in-state tuition versus Georgia out-of-state tuition. Looks like we're moving to Georgia your junior year, so that we get established residency. And, but it's like, oh boy, now, but yeah, we're looking at going in 3 years, they're both going to be in college. What do we want to do and where do we want to be is
Yeah.
the question.
Are they hockey players as well?
No, my daughter's very much into art. I mean, she played some volleyball and basketball, but she's artistic. But my son's a baseball player.
Okay.
If Minnesota had house league hockey, he would have played house league hockey.
Okay.
But he looks at his buddies, all the way down into mites where they skate several times a week. And, he had an opportunity to play for Matamidi 4 or 5 years ago. They needed a goalie. And I was like, okay, do you guys have association equipment? They're like, no. I was like, well, there's a, red flag for us. But I still put it out there. It's like, we'll go to play it again. We've got resources. He fit some of my stuff. Is like, not, if you want to play, we'll make it work. And he goes, they're skating, most nights of the week. He goes, and their practices don't start till 9:00. I go to bed at 9:00. It's like, okay. He's like, it's too much of a commitment for me. I said, okay, that's fair. That is actually pretty mature for his age. So
Right.
He had the opportunity because, we had the backyard rink during COVID, and before COVID, me and the neighbor we built the rink, but it was usually in their yard, but then it moved over to our yard because we had more flat space after I put the wall up. And every time he's out on the pond or backyard rinks, he's always putting the pads on. So he's a goalie by nature, whether or not he's played organized hockey or not. He's a goalie. Not a bad skater for not having any lessons or, playing organized hockey. He's pretty decent.
Well, that's incredible. It's good to hear.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe once he gets older and, is old enough for the beer leagues, maybe he'll be like some of my teammates and just pick it up on his own because, baseball will be over at that point. Who knows?
That's where they get you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because, if you're a baseball player, you can go play softball, but for most guys, by the time they're out of their 20s, the softball days have passed them. They've gotten their fill. You don't see too many 30, 40-year-old softball guys out there the way you do 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old hockey players still going out there every week, still playing as if they're, mites still.
Yeah. I look forward to that. The story of the guy in Duluth playing into his mid-90s. He passed this last year. And
Mr. Surdich. And he was playing hockey the week he died.
Right. And me and my wife watched the story on the news, and she looked at me and went, yeah, you're going to be doing that same thing, aren't you? And yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to be the same way. And, will I be a goalie at that age? Probably not. There will be a time where I got to start skating out, but I'll probably be the defenseman stepping in front of shots because old habits are hard to break. I know that. But I hope to at least play goalie for another 20 plus years. It's not out of the cards for me. I'm healthy. Aside from a somewhat nagging back injury, I'm okay.
You're doing fine.
Yeah.
Better shape than I am at this point.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we talk about moving south. My wife when we first started talking, we were talking about the Nashville area, and she's like, are you okay moving? Will you be able to play hockey? It's like, I've already been in contact with Bones down there who I've had on the podcast, the Predators E-Bug. It's like, he said he could get me on a beer league team. Like, I'm okay. They got a good scene. And then we started talking about Atlanta, and I was like, in northern Atlanta suburbs, it's like, there's 3 rinks. Looks like they got a pretty good beer league scene there too. I'm okay. Now we're looking at Knoxville. It's like, still okay. There's been a few areas. Memphis has been floated because houses are pretty cheap down there. But I'm like, there's rinks, but I'm not crazy about the Memphis area. And she's like, okay. And then Dallas was floated around. I was like, yep, still okay with Dallas. But there's been a few areas where I'm like, I'm not too crazy about it. And she's like, why not? It's like, not much hockey down there.
Right. Yeah. And it gives me hope too, because at some point with all the ailments I've had, I'm sure the cold weather's going to start to hurt at some point in my life. And, you talk to guys and you see guys on these sites like Bronzy. I'm sure you've probably had him on. He's
not yet.
No?
Not yet.
Man, that guy is so personable. I talked to him during the pandemic because I thought about like Nick, the goalie. He's got his own TikTok deal. Bronzy's kind of a Facebook celebrity, and
Yeah.
I messaged him back and forth, and actually got on the phone with him same day. He's such a great guy. He's a really personable guy. He invites you out to California to go skate. He's got gear for you.
Yeah.
Jesse Durst on the other coast.
Yeah.
He's another one that I've talked back and forth with a lot, and there's hockey out there too.
Yep. Yeah. There's hockey in a lot more places than we realize, because my wife even brought up, well, what about Alabama? And it's like, well, it depends on where in Alabama. I know there's hockey because I have a friend from grade school. Her brother played high school hockey and everything else. And she now lives down there, and she's got her boys in hockey. And she's like, it's bigger than I would have thought down here. I was like, it depends on where we go. But my wife knows that no matter where we wind up, there's got to be hockey available for me, and not just like low level beginner hockey, but okay hockey at least to keep me.
At least okay.
Yeah, at least okay. And the rink has to allow beers in the locker room, or at least the parking lot. Because
there you go.
When I had Bones on, he was on episode 1. I asked him, what's the worst post game beer you ever had? And he goes, I was up in Minnesota for a game, and the guys want to know if I wanted beer after the game. And he goes, yeah. He goes, we had beers in the parking lot in February. What's wrong with you guys? I was like, well, what rink were you at? Because some rinks, that's the only option we have. But like the super rink, they're just like, yeah, just make sure they make it into the garbage can and you're fine.
Yeah. And it's tough. You play those late games. You got the 10:40 start.
Yeah.
For me, it's usually Sunday, Monday nights. And the guys that I play with on Monday nights, it's always been a long-standing tradition. It's like T-ball, who's got the beer this week, and it'll be -30, and the beer will freeze before you finish it. And all right, it's one and done tonight, but we'll give her hell next week.
Yeah, it's nice when you get those early games toward the end of the winter season, when youth hockey's over already and they start giving you the 6:00 games. It's like, oh, we can go across the street to Invictus after the game and have some tap beers instead. Those are always nice because they got really good burgers over at Tipsy Steer too. So a good burger and a beer after the game, I'm always happy.
Yep. Yeah. Clive's is always a nice spot to hit if you can get there early enough. And if worst comes to worst, it's March, April. Well, you got an early game. It's barbecue night, and I'll throw the grill on the back of the truck, and we'll make a night of it.
Yeah, it's also funny too, because some of my teammates, if we got the 9:00 game, they'll tend to go to the brewery before the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, we know we're 2 minutes from the rink, so we know when we got to come over. It works out pretty good. So yeah, those are my teammates in a nutshell. Well, you've skated with them, you know how they are. And then we got the Ballast boys, the father and son and the nephew, who they walk in when the Zamboni's hitting the ice, and they're usually the first ones on the ice too. There's been a few games where we got 4, maybe 5 guys in the locker room before the game. We're like, oh, the Zamboni's not on the ice, so we know we got 3 more still coming. We're good to play a game.
And that's the scary part as a sub. And like I said, I sub for everybody. And sometimes, the message doesn't get conveyed that you got a goalie, and I'm perpetually early. So I get there and, 10 minutes before the Zam goes on, if I got 1 or 2 guys in the room, I'm pretty happy. Yeah. But when the Zam's half done and you got 5 skaters, and you're going, oh boy, is this what your team's all about? Or oh yeah, we got guys coming. Then the bus goes up and you got a full.
Then there's other teams. Like I got the message a couple weeks back from the one team, you'll probably know them, Creme de la Creme. They wear the Team Russia jerseys, and they're like, yeah, those jerseys didn't age well. They're looking to rebrand for the next session. Yeah. But so I showed up, and because I was gonna basically be playing back to back. It was like, hey, you guys are in need of a goalie. I'll help you out. And like 3/4 of their team was there 45 minutes before the game. It's like, this is amazing. Well, it also turned out 2 guys found goalies. So I was like, okay, and you guys got 2 goalies. Like, I already got a game. I'll let the other guy play. Like, are you
Right.
sure we feel bad? It's like, just let me have a beer while I sit around and wait. And they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And then they're like, we got Fireball, we got Pink Whitney's. And it's like, now I know why you guys are at the bottom of the standings in your league right now. Like, you guys are getting sloshed before the game, not after.
Yeah. There was actually a Russian team. I want to say it was probably between 2006 and 2010. Most of the guys on the team were Russian. They spoke Russian on the ice. They
Oh
had
boy.
guys with the mirrored visors, and this is
Yeah.
Super Inc. had the bar upstairs. Hatcher Cafe would serve beer, and
Yep.
they had all their wives with them, and it was just three of them bringing in tray after tray after tray into the locker room. And I remember getting yelled at in Russian because they were one of the better teams in the league. I was shutting them out. I'm getting yelled at and heckled from the stands. It was fantastic. I don't know what happened to that team, but man, they were so much fun to play against. But
Yeah.
you couldn't beat them in the parking lot after. They always stayed to the end of the night, and they always won the parking lot battle of who's staying latest. And boy, I don't know what they had to do for work the next morning, but they were conditioned athletes.
Yeah, that is the worst part about having the Sunday night games. It's like, we got Monday morning work tomorrow. So 1, 2 beers tops.
Yeah,
And that's all right, because you got to drive through Lionel Lakes to get home.
right.
And, I don't need that hanging over me.
Yeah, I'm over in Coon Rapids, so I got the Highway 65 gauntlet, and then the Highway 10 gauntlet, and then the Main Street gauntlet to go through.
Yeah.
So I got to be careful, but it's been so much fun to get to know people like you and everybody in the league, and to be a little. I mean, yeah, I'm known for being a little bit goofy, and I'm kind of known at the rink, and it's kind of fun to be somewhat of a local celebrity, I guess.
Well, that's got to help too with the mask, where most of the refs know you by now. So, it's like, you don't have to worry about it. It's kind of fun skating so long, knowing some of the refs and their personalities. I mean, Bush is probably the best one to have on the ice because he's going to pick on you the whole game, regardless.
Yeah,
But then there's some of the other ones too, and yeah, he's funny.
the guys at the Super Inc. know me so well. Like Ron Foyt, he's such a great guy. He's been reffing up there since the conception of adult leagues, along with a couple others. Chad's up there. He's been there since day one. Booch has been up there forever.
Yeah.
You guys that I haven't caught names yet, but they all know me. I know them. We give each other hell here and there. Oh, the Verplassi family, those guys are always reffing.
Yeah. I forget the ref I had this week, but the rebounds they were bouncing off me. I couldn't keep them in my gloves this week. And he skates by, he goes, you need a little more stick 'em on the gloves this week. It's like, yeah, I do. He was picking on me a little bit, but it was like, yeah, I deserve it. And then there's been a couple times I pick on the refs where, it's a questionable icing call. Is like, my guy should have had it, but he didn't. And it's like, it's not my fault. He's a bad player and can't accept a pass. It should be waved off because he's bad, not because he didn't touch the puck. And they'll just start laughing.
Yeah, you get those where you got a couple of guys, maybe just one or two, and they're chasing down a puck, and it's getting close. And you almost want the ref to just wave it off because they spent that much energy. They both need to go to the bench and get a change right afterward. But man, they tried hard for it. Let it go.
If it's, and some of the refs do, like if you're within 10 feet, they're like, no icing, keep playing, because half the time, because they don't want to have to skate down to get the puck.
Right. Yeah, they're just, you got to remember, they're just like us. They're old and out of shape too.
Yeah, I like the ones when there's only one ref, and they'll take the time every goal to go into the box, put the goal up on the board, because like they need that rest just as much as we do.
Yeah, give everybody a breather.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we see what you're doing there, and we're okay with it.
Yep.
So I want to be mindful of time. We've been talking almost an hour, and I don't know if you've listened to past episodes or not, but I end every episode with a list of 10 questions.
Okay.
Same 10 questions I've asked every single guest, from your bantam goalie to your Hall of Fame Stanley Cup winning goalie. And the
All right.
first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days where a coach just lost it?
Oh man. Well, when I played junior hockey, just to protect some namesakes, we won't tell you what teams I played for or who it was, but we had a fundraiser where one of our coaches beat up one of our sponsors. So that didn't go over very well. But that same junior team, a coach who had not been a coach very long was a player for a long time in the league. Tried to jump up, fight in the stands. And you got stuff like that from the junior hockey days. But my old man was always the worst growing up. You could hear his voice booming out in the parking lot. So, he got kicked out of more games, I think, than anybody else. And he reffed with half the guys that kicked him out. So it was even more fun.
So if you played junior hockey, and we'll keep the teams anonymous, but did you play in that junior B league, the MJHL then? Okay, that makes more sense, because when I played at St. Mary's, we would schedule games against those teams for our JV team. So yeah, that sounds on par for that league.
Yeah. Then you probably know who I'm talking about and what team. So
it's possible. Yeah, the Ice Hawks were always a fun team to play against.
We had a small league, and man, it was if you look at junior hockey today versus what it is now, holy cow, we were rough and tumble, and it was a grind.
Yeah, I still remember we would play some of those teams, because not all MIAC teams had a JV team, so we would round out our schedule with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing, by the red line on the bench right next to the other team's goalie, and one of their guys was trying to start a fight with us, and he looks at me and goes, "So do you guys not fight because you're a Catholic school?" And I looked at him and he said, "No, we don't fight because we're wearing full cages. It doesn't make sense."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I suppose that explains it." And I just, in my mind, I'm going, "Well, I don't have to worry about you coming to our school and passing the admissions standards." Right. But it was funny. We were playing, I think it was the Ice Hawks we were playing, and freak accident. One of the players, he's going into the corner, loses an edge, and as he's going down, his helmet starts to come up, and he hits the back of his head right on the corner of the dasher board.
Oof.
And it just splits it open. Blood's gushing everywhere, to the point where when the ambulance came, they took him outside and set his head in the snowbank to stop it, because they were waiting for a helicopter to come get him and take him up to the cities. It was that bad.
God. Wow.
Fast forward to the next year, he's now at the school, and he's roommates with the kid that he went into the corner with.
Oh, wow.
No bad blood there, because he even said it was just a freak accident. He lost his footing, but just, crazy how things work out that way.
It really is.
Too, and I think both of them live out in Colorado now, for obvious reasons.
Come back home pretty soon here. We're half legal.
Yeah, well, the one is a school teacher out there, and I forget what the other fellow is a musician. I forget what else he does out there. Okay. But yeah, so the next question: what is your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's really putting someone on the spot, because there's so many greats. You brought Brenneman, which is a great one, and the names, since I'm on the spot, the names are going to fleet me, but. Gary Cheevers is iconic. But my favorite and my favorite goaltender, just because I think he embodies a lot of myself, because I can't let gear go. I limp it along as long as I can. It's Artis Urbe. His mask, I remember being a kid, picking up the Let's Play Hockey magazine and having Artis Urbe put an article out there looking for the 1979 Coho helmet, hoping somebody had one laying around in their basement somewhere. And for some reason that kind of stuck with me. But, you got the Gillies Graton Tiger mask. That was amazing. And then
That's what you get. You should get painted on yours is the tiger.
yeah, I've thought about it. I have to stay true to the white
Yeah.
solid mask for a while, but I think after some time with it the way it is, once I take enough pucks to the head and starts to crack a little bit, I think maybe I'll send it to your place to have your daughter paint something up on it and wear it there. I'll represent her artwork.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Herbe. I remember seeing in Goalie's World, he had the same ad in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was my first helmet. Mom and
Oh,
dad
no
found
kidding.
one at Sport Mart, way too big for me. It just jostle around. And, I sent an email because it was early days of email. And Hurricanes equipment manager got back to me. He goes, "We just found a stockpile in a storeroom of a pro shop." He's like, "We got 15 of them here. Thank you, but we don't need them anymore."
Oh,
But yeah, it was crazy that he was reaching out to the beer leaguers. Like, does anybody have one of these? I love these. Now the cages, from what I heard and talking to some other goalies, they weren't the Jofa cages because it was easier to get those made still.
right.
Jofa wasn't making them anymore, but they could go to other masks makers who were making cages and they could replicate that, but it was the helmet. He just couldn't get them anymore. But yeah, I still have that one sitting in the garage. It's like that one might be worth hanging on to. I kind of want to get find one of those old cages and put it on there because Kelly Rudy wore the same mask too.
Yeah, yeah, and Rudy was a character as well. He was a one to watch.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast early on, and such a fun, nice guy. Very, very much an advocate for mental health these days too, which is awesome.
Yeah, same with Chuck.
Yeah, he's got a podcast specifically on mental health. He's talked about hockey on it, but it's very, not a hockey podcast. It's a good one though.
Yeah, there's actually a charity event going on tomorrow at the Coon Rapids Ice Arena. It's Veterans for PTSD charity game going on. I try to jump in and play in that, but I'm not a vet, so they said, we appreciate you wanting to help out and play, but you can volunteer.
That's is that the Sentinels or the Minnesota Warriors playing in that one?
I believe it's it's not even the Warriors, I don't think. It's the Minnesota Blue Ox the event, and they got a couple of pro players coming. Koivu's going to be there.
Yeah.
Sutton, Matt Cook, some pretty big name guys. So it'll be a fun event tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good for that group. I'm happy for them. So the next question, to keep things rolling, what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
All of them. I grew up playing at Fogarty Ice Arena, so the old rink, the South Rink, Fogarty is probably my all-time favorite, and that one's really stood the test of time. There hasn't really had to be upgrades done to it. Yeah, they had that goofy electric Zamboni, but
they're finally retiring because not just the electric, but the corded electric Zamboni. I just saw the email that they're going to retire it.
Yeah, that's finally happening. But now I barely ever play there anymore. The Super Rink's been my home for a long time. But as a player, I like the Super Rink because you can always see the puck. Like playing at the U of M Mariucci this weekend, when there's no fans in the stands and the puck gets elevated, you can't really see the puck through the maroon. So that was kind of. I like playing at the Super Rink because you can always see the puck. Ice surfaces there in the summertime kind of are tough at the Super Rink, but I'm branching out and I'm playing in a lot more arenas now, and I might pick a new favorite next time we talk.
Yeah, I'm always happy when I see on the schedule we're on rinks 5 or 6 because those are the two best sheets at the Super Rink.
Right, 100%.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite stick that you've used?
As a goaltender or a skater?
Goalie.
As a goalie, I don't know. I was partial to a CCM for a while. So something that wouldn't surprise anybody is I'm kind of a scavenger, and I only shop at Play It Again if I don't get a hand-me-down from my buddy Ronnie Druck, he's a girls varsity goalie coach for Andover. I lived with him when I was in middle school and high school, and he's still playing every now and again, but he'll buy stuff in bulk, and every couple of months I'll stop over to his place and say, "Hey, I need a new stick. How much tape am I going to have to put on them?" And the only stick that I don't like playing with is one that's broken in half and I can't tape together anymore.
Yep. No, I get that. And yeah, I'm a foam core holdout. I haven't gone to the composites yet. I like the feel of the wooden stick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tried one of the new style sticks. A team that I played for many years was nice enough to buy me one because I refused to buy myself one, and it was all right. It lasted a while, but I got mad, and well, that was probably a couple $100 mistake.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing about like even a foam core, I can still find them for under $100. It's getting harder to do, but I can find them. Pro stock hockey, oddly enough, is where I've been able to find the last few, which is nice. But yeah, the older ones, I like them. So the next question is, what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh boy. Man, as a goalie, probably the one and only glove saves that I ever made. That first game I played as goalie back in Ponies, the perfect, kick the leg out and held that leather high, and I had to balance the puck in there because I couldn't close it. That might be up there at the top, but once I got into Bantam hockey and high school hockey, family went through a lot of changes. My dad ended up having a massive stroke at 38 and was in the hospital for well over a year trying to rehab, come back. And him and my grandparents never missed a game or a practice. My grandpa, anyway. My grandma, she skipped the practices, but that first game back, for my dad to come and watch, he got a standing ovation on senior night. No, it wasn't senior night. I can't remember which night it was. It was a bigger howdy do for Blaine High School, and the cheer from the crowd when my dad walked down the steps and came on the ice with me was
that's cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember my grandpa, he would come to my games, and he was a Dutch immigrant. So he didn't understand the game. He just loved that everybody was involved because he said, I go to your cousin's softball games and there's only 2 people playing at a time. He goes, I come to your games, everybody's involved.
Yeah.
But he had hardening of the arteries, so he wound up having both legs amputated just below the knee at different times. So after the second one, and he would come in the wheelchair, but he didn't like sitting, ground level along the glass. He liked to sit above the glass.
Mm-hmm.
Rinks weren't that ADA friendly back in the late 90s, especially the old rinks on the south side of Chicago. So he would have the other hockey dads, and my dad wasn't at every game because he's a fireman. So every third day he's working for 24 hours. The other hockey dads just knew when my grandpa was there, 2 of the dads had to grab either side of the wheelchair and carry the wheelchair up the stands. But it was funny because it got to the point where when he was there, I had to wave to him when I got on the ice. Because if I didn't wave to him, he's like, he doesn't know I'm here. So I had to wave to him. But when he would come to the games, it got to the point where like all my teammates, as they came out, they would wave up to my grandpa, and he just loved it. He's like, they all know I'm here, not just him. And then when he passed away that first game, my grandma, she lacked the sensitive caring bone in her body. She didn't have that. But as I told my wife, she was a teenager in Holland during World War II, and her family hid Jews while under Nazi occupation. So like, I get why maybe she wasn't the most caring person. She had reasons. And I don't know why, but she knew that first game after he passed away, she should probably come to it. Even though she didn't enjoy the game, she came to it, and it was like, all my teammates, we all came out, we saw her, we waved to her. There's just something about that. Your teammates, they always kind of know when to do those things.
Yeah, stuff like that speaks volumes and it stays with you forever.
It does. It does. So the other things that speak volumes are chirps in hockey. What is the best chirp you've heard directed at you, not directed at you? Uh, best one you've heard.
You got a face that would make a freight train take a dirt road.
I like that. That
Yeah,
is,
that one
yeah.
I will never forget, and I use it all the time.
Nice. Yeah, the best, that's up there in the best ones I've heard. The other really good one I heard was David Hutchins from Ingle magazine. He said his son's goalie coach looked at him and said, "You must be really good at dodgeball."
Oh God.
To hear that from your goalie coach, it's
Oh
like, oh.
man, that's a slow burn too. If the kid isn't quick enough to pick it up right away, man.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that's so mean. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So what is, I wouldn't even say the worst post-game beer. What's the worst in-game beer you've had?
Oh boy. Um. Well, we called it the truck beer at the time because it sat in a truck all summer. It was probably 95 degrees, and it was about 95 degrees, and it might have been a moose head. So
Oof.
it was brutal. That was a tough one, but I got traditions I got to hold on to, and we got her done.
Even a cold moose head is not that great. So yeah, that is brutal. Um, so when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Heel to toe, and I only tape
Okay.
it once, and that's the only tape it gets.
Yeah, so you're in the majority there. So normally the next question is what's your favorite number to wear and why? But we already covered that, so we don't have to go over it again. I love the negative one. The last question is what advice do you have for young goalies?
Uh, and I'm starting to coach youth hockey now, and I don't like what I'm seeing from um, the mass standards now with every goalie trying to be exactly the same.
Mhm.
Don't be a robot. If something feels right and something's working for you, keep with it. Have fun with the game. Take pointers where you can, but be true to yourself. Play with flair if you play with flair. Be a robot if you're going to be a robot. But man, go out there and have fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and quite a few goalies I've talked to, said in the '90s, every goalie, even down to the youth level, was different
Yeah,
because
you
we
can
had
tell.
coaches. Yeah, we had coaches that coached to our strengths rather than saying this is how you should do it. This
Right,
is what works for you. But so many goalie coaches now, it's like they want to have an assembly line, and this
right,
is the factory made goalie. This is how it should be done. It's like no, let the goalie have some personality. Let them have their own flair, but work to their strengths.
right,
And there's going to be those weaknesses. You can adjust to them. When different things come out, like the panda, try and figure it out. If it works for you, great, use it.
right.
More tools in the toolbox. That's what I love about still be using the two pad stack or even the split saves. It's like, do I use them all the time? No, they're tools
No,
in the toolbox. Know when to use them and know how to use them, and,
exactly.
and that's the key. But yeah, I'm with you there. So it's been fun chatting. Where can folks find you on social media if you want them to?
The only real social media I have is Facebook. So Darrin Hansen, Hansen. You can tell it's me because it's a picture of me and my son together, and uh,
Yeah.
you'll see me on GGSU and a couple other goalie sites in the Twin Cities. So if you want to find me, you can find me. Otherwise, if you need a goalie, I'll throw you my phone number and let me know.
Yeah.
I'll pick up for you.
Hey, basically, if you need a goalie, you just go to the Twin City Facebook goalie group, and you're one of the first to respond half the time.
Yeah.
I don't even go to that goalie group now without coming to you first in the DM chat, because like if you're available, I know you're going to skate, and I know you're going to do just fine for my team. You're reliable. That's great, because I've had a guy before that showed up in the second period,
Oh,
and is like I was hurt with. It was like a week or two after I hurt my back. Like I'm literally bedridden at this point. My teammates are like, where's this guy? It's like, I don't, and I even texted him that morning, like, you're good for tonight's game, right? And for whatever reason, instead of like a 6 o'clock start, he had in his phone at 6:30. It's like, so this morning when I said 6 o'clock start, and you're like, yeah, good. You still, it's like, okay.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
But if you want me there, let me know the time and rink and I'll show up.
Yeah. Which I'll probably be reaching out to you in February. I'm going to go to the Carolina Hurricanes Stadium Series game with my dad.
Oh,
So that's a Friday game. I'm going to fly back, or a Saturday game. I'm going to fly back Sunday, but I don't know if my plane will be in time or if I'm going to want to skate after, you know, a long weekend of traveling. So I know that weekend I'm going to need a sub. So we'll be talking for that one.
I'll be there.
Yeah, and I know my teammates will be happy about that. I'll let that be a pleasant surprise for them. I won't tell them ahead of time.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, it's been fun. Enjoy shoveling the snow, but you said if you are out there already, it probably needs a second pass. I get to go out there for the first pass after dinner here.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Don't slip and fall.
Oh, I'm teaching the kids to use a snowblower, so I just have to oversee right now.
That's the best place to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Have a great night.
You too.